Alright everyone, welcome back to X4. The previous episode on a basic introduction to the game and piloting, etc. received a pretty good reception, so here we are with episode 2, where I think we're going to jump into more of the storyline, showing off probably exploration, faction reputation, maybe getting our first business venture and passive income up, and of course developing our character's view of the world, and me laying out the sort of story objectives I might want this campaign to have. I've flown over to Neptune, where we're going to be infiltrating a research operation for the Terran Secret Service. The Segaris Pioneers are an interesting group. When you're flying around the X universe as you explore, you might notice the economy is perhaps not as well developed as you might expect for spacefaring civilizations that are being connected and trading all this time. And their fleets similarly aren't as well developed as you might expect. Partly that's a game design element, so there's a role for the player, but partly it's story based because they weren't connected forever and they haven't been connected forever. Relatively recently in X history, all of the gates that are connecting systems other than within Sol itself shut down. They disconnected. So for a significant period, all these systems which are developed reliance on each other for trade were on their own, and if you can't trade in a space-based economy and you're not defending against anything in a space-based economy, things sort of fall apart quickly because you just want to focus on your terrestrial population. There's not much use investing up top and your networks fall apart. The Segaris Pioneers are the result of when the gates shut down, there are a large number of people in Terran Protectorate territory who weren't Terran Protectorate citizens who were just in transit. Merchants, ship crews, etc. So they all got, basically, as my understanding is, and we can even jump over to their page quickly. I'll just go full stop so we don't accidentally trigger the next bit of the story. Just want to understand who we're about to talk to. Encyclopedia, factions, and we want the Segaris Pioneers. Here we go. So the Terran government was wary of the communities, brought the Pioneer Initiative to being. So yeah, so basically they were given some territory in the outer edges of Sol, saying, hey, you can like mine and operate and build stations here. And then when the gates returned, they were able to use those to connect to other planets and establish their own territory, which I imagine we'll be flying to in a moment. So there's sort of a vassal state of the Terran Protectorate. They use some of the same technology, but they're reliant on the Protectorate for military protection. They don't have, for example, a large war fleet or capital ships of their own. So they're an interesting group. They're within the Terran sphere. They're technically very friendly, but they are politically distinct in a sense. So let's go talk to Dr. Feynman on the Oberth, which is a research-modified Okinawa. There it is. This is me turning up for work.
Fortunately for you, we're having technical difficulties. I looked over your file, and I must say it made for interesting reading. Know this, you will have to impress me personally if you want any chance of getting an assignment worthy of your apparent skill set. While we wait for departure, perhaps you could showcase your resourcefulness. I'm in need of an item not often found on the general market. Should you find it, you will most certainly have piqued my interest. I'll send over some details.
And that's so hilarious. So
you're not completely lost without my guidance. I've marked a potential location.
Oh, even better.
And hope to find the item. Check your map for those details. These items are often sourced from Xenon, but it would not be very professional of me to encourage you to seek them out.
Of course not. Okay, so we've turned up to check out what's going on with this research in Segaris Pioneer territory, and yes. Yes, boss.
Seems we can add solicitation of illegal materials to his list of charges. Carry on. We can't afford to make him suspicious now.
Literally the first thing he does is send me off to find an AGI, an Artificial General Intelligence Processor, which is a bloody piece of AI tech that you recover from destroyed Xenon, and which is extremely illegal. So let's go through our cadets' experience so far. We finish our education in the Terran education system. Literally the first time we head out, we discover pirates with cybernetic implants that can apparently control Xenon. Other factions that are complaining about the fact that we are there fighting swarms and swarms of Xenon that could other potentially fly into their territories. And then I get sent to investigate another faction which is supposedly friendly, and indeed is. They are closely aligned, and as I said, sort of like a de facto vassal of Terran Protectorate. And literally the first thing the guy does to a new employee who turns up in a ship for the first time is say, yo bro, go get me some illegal artificial intelligence technology. Also, here's a black market contact in order to buy it. The world doesn't seem great to our character, I'm sure. Plus, our wingman was lost in that initial engagement. So, if the Terran Protectorate basically runs the line with people that AGI is very dangerous because the Xenon are trying to wipe out all life, and that's really dangerous technology, and no one else is taking this seriously, which is why we need to get involved, I think we're only seeing proof of that being the case. Plus the Terran Protectorate's resources maybe not being entirely sufficient to holding the entire galaxy on its shoulders. So you can start to see the beginnings of a motivation form there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to order, because I can't dock my big ship at their small ship. I did recover an AGI processor earlier from those destroyed Xenon, because I knew this was coming. I just thought this would be funny. I can't dock at the large ship in my medium. I only need a small, so I could jump over in my spacesuit, but I'd like to have a ship on board. So I'm going to bring the kukri in. It'll dock in just a moment, and then I can fly over in my spacesuit and complete the transfer that way. Okay, we've got the kukri landing, and I'm flying over in my suit. So that way, we will be able to jump into the fighter if the freighter moves and we get separated from our ship, which is likely to happen. Send in a docking request. The area around the pad itself has artificial gravity and a field holding in an atmosphere, so you can walk around without a spacesuit. All it takes to access it is just first fly in your spacesuit to the docking bay, and then once you're inside the ship, you can arrive in the bit that you can actually walk around with everyone else. Alright, I've handed over the AGI processor, considering the Secret Service told me to, and it appears the freighter is now underway.
I'm quite sure this sensor net is also used to keep tabs on Terran Protectorate activity in their sectors. Go ahead and repair it, but we may take action later.
So I'm going to be skipping a lot of the story, both because I don't want to spoil it, and also because I said I want to keep moving and showing off different facets of the game. But I do find it funny that literally the second task we are given after recovering an illegal... After he gives an infiltrating agent the job of going and finding him an illegal item and giving him the contact of a black market dealer to buy one, just in case he doesn't have one in his back pocket. He apparently wasn't suspicious that I had one in my back pocket. My second job is repairing a network of satellites that may or may not be using to keep tabs on Terran Protectorate movements, presumably so they don't get busted while they're doing this whole investigation into a strange station thing. So, as my boss indicated, I am going to repair them so we don't arouse suspicion. But yeah, these guys are really, really bad at counterintel. Also, just trusting the new guy with like the highly sensitive jobs straight out. Top tier work, guys. Alright, illegal technology delivered. Sensor network repaired. Let's land on the O-berth and see what job is next. Okay, so we have flown to an asteroid base in Segaris Pioneer territory, which apparently requires repairs. And it is very clear right off the bat that this is not Segaran Pioneer technology. This is very clearly not Segaris Pioneer technology. We're being sent to repair it and being told that this is all perfectly safe and normal. So of course I will trust my boss to go and repair the strange technology, and nothing can possibly go wrong. But in case you haven't already figured it out, this station is very important to the plot, you and the game title as a whole. Anyway, let me go do some repairs. Okay, I'm closing in on the last 2 repair points. These are super easy. Zap, zap, zap. All done.
We're picking up strange readings again. You better get back to the ship. Gravimetric shears. Disengage docking clamps.
And lo and behold, the sky just changed. And we have entered the space protected by the Ministry of Finance. So let's stabilize.
What is this? Some large artificial structure. So this is what was on the other side of the tear. It does seem that our investigation has led to some potentially groundbreaking discovery. Assistant? Assistant? Can you hear me? Oh dear. It seems that they were either vaporized or pulled through the rift themselves. And what is this? You there. Are you alright?
That is a boron. They're an aquatic species. They also, hence the fish tank arrangement. And we are clearly not where we began. So I'm guessing this guy was talking to someone. They're probably where I came from, and the station and I have been teleported here instead. So where am I?
In Taladi space. Assuming you know what a Taladi is.
Well, we'll be meeting them soon enough. Who are you,
My
mate?
name is Bozo Tar. Some might call me one of the foremost minds of the current age. If anyone knew I existed, that is.
Ah,
But
the
never
plight of
mind
every
that.
academic.
Did you perhaps get pulled through the rift along with this station?
Absolutely.
Let us keep a calm demeanor. Otherwise, your oxygen intake may increase rapidly. I will send a ship to your location. I do hope you will tell me where you have come from. First, let's get you to safety.
This is Bozo. Yes, I know his name is Bozo, but he's Bozo because I'm Aussie, and Bozo is going to be very important to our playthrough. Bozo is a boron. They are an aquatic species known for being friendly, verbose, deeply curious and into research, and also deeply pacifistic. They do not like starting wars, even though they are capable of defending themselves, and they are one of the other species we'll be encountering as we fly around the gate network. Now, I have to fly 2 kilometers to the ship he has sent to pick me up, which is a Guillemot Vanguard. Not as good as the obviously superior Terran technology that we were originally flying, but given that my alternative choice is flying here until that oxygen bar at the bottom of the screen runs out and I suffocate and die in the cold, merciless depths of space, I'm going to take the ship, so just give me a sec. Alright, here we are. Shift D to request docking. Looks like the docking port is on the underside, as often is the case. In we go.
It appears you are sufficiently safe.
This is a Taladi ship, and that is a Taladi.
Am I correct in assuming that you have some connection to this station? I have already begun to remotely interface with its systems and appear to have gained significant access. I have oh so many questions I would like answered, but unfortunately, it seems I must go. You see, I am not currently supposed to be working on this project. It appears that I am at a disadvantage and find myself entrusting stewardship of the station to you. Ha! For all I know, you are an enemy agent, already privy to the inner workings of this facility. Please do not use it for nefarious purposes while I am absent.
I am an agent. I'm not nefarious. So, we now have control of the headquarters. Very important station, and it will become more and more important through your playthrough. You can build any number of stations, and we will be building a lot of stations in this playthrough. But the player headquarters gives you access to some unique functions. So, where are we? We're over here. And as you can see, we are very separated from our space. The yellow outline means that we are in Taladi space. I've got faction color codings on for sector control. So that's Segaris territory down there, Terran territory, Xenon territory, and we are in Taladi space. And if you're playing for the first time and you're playing this start, I think this is a really cool moment, because one thing you will realize immediately, and it's an interesting feeling, is you can't just order your ships out there because they have no idea how to get to you. If I hit fly and wait, it won't work. So you are separated from the Protectorate and you don't initially know the way home. Don't look it up, because I think being separated from your support network is a great character moment, and finding your way back is interesting too. We've been given some objectives. The first, if we look at mission offers, is Boso wants us to build a dock area. By default, we can't land on the station, so you need to build a dock. Any station that you want to land a ship at needs a dock. This is the station construction menu. We'll be seeing a lot of it, but let's introduce the very basics. There are modules of various types, and you can click them onto your stations. To demonstrate, what we will do is we will grab a dock, this basic non-Terran dock here, that's an Argon design. We will bolt it onto the side of the station here at one of the connection points. You'll see what you're planning to change, confirm module changes, and now it's part of our build plan. The next thing we need is resources to build it. We could deliver them ourselves, but we don't have any resources and we don't have a freighter, and we don't know where we are and we don't know where we buy them from. So instead what you can do is go down here to manage buy offers, and you give the station credits, basically, to go and buy the stuff it needs for a construction to happen. I'm just going to accept the estimate, which is the station saying it needs about 182,000 credits to buy the Claytronics, energy parts, and hull parts necessary to build the dock. The final thing you need to construct is a building ship. We don't have a building ship. They're very large and expensive. So instead you can hire a building ship, which means we're going to have to go find one, because the only alternative is to go on and hire one from Terran space, and we don't have satellite coverage out that way anyway. So we're going to have to wait and see if we can find a builder as we explore. And I think the number one imperative for my character, we've set that up, so as we find a builder we'll send them back to do it, is to get home. We need access to our ships, we need to report what's going on, we need to find out what's happening, which means getting out of here.
Albatross, Sentinel.
Alright, as we're exploring north, we have just found an Albatross. That's a construction vessel. So while we have it on screen, if we go to Plan Build, Assign or Hire a Builder, if I look at it on the map, if it hasn't already been hired, there it is, right-click, select. We've now paid 50,000 credits. I know I'm rapidly burning through my mugging Blackwater money. That builder should now go over and build this. And as you can see, there's already a ship coming in. It's 10 minutes away that's accepted our offer to sell give us Claytronics. So they'll take from the station budget and deliver that. Other ships will pick up those trade offers in time. This is saying no pier module. Piers are really big docks that you need for large and extra large ships that obviously can't fit on this thing. We don't need one. Not urgent. The other thing I'll say is, especially if you're playing a Terran start, you start with 2 dock blueprints. There are hundreds of modules in the game. Blueprints are expensive. Intellectual property is expensive. Don't start by building the Terran dock, even though it looks better and has more docking capacity, because it's made out of Terran materials. The standard dock is built out of Claytronics, energy cells, and hull parts. Things that people around here are going to have access to. The luxury dock is made out of Terran materials, which would have to ship all the way from Terran space, which means there are no traders around here with those goods, so you're probably never going to see it built. Even if you offer a maximum price bid, you may not get any goods offers. You're probably going to have to ship them in yourself, at least initially. So use local technology when building in this area, at least until you have a supply chain set up or a solution as to how to get yourself Terran goods. So that's good. Now that's happening in the background. We'll have a dock on our station. And we can also start talking, once we fly around a bit, our plans for our first stations, because that build interface, yes, there was a pre-existing station there, but we can also use that to build factory stations of our own. And as we explore, I reckon our character is going to have reason to start doing so. Alright, so as we fly around, let's start introducing some species and factions. Let's calm this Taladi and see if they'll talk to us. Thank you, mate. Okay, he won't help us, so we're going to have to keep exploring. The Taladi, we're in Taladi space right now. The Taladi are long-lived space lizards who love profit and embrace neutrality mostly as a way to make a bunch of money. They're split into 2 factions, the Taladi Company, which is a corporate entity that runs the Taladi, so to speak. The Ministry of Finance is the other Taladi faction. They're sort of law enforcement, navy combined. Members of the Ministry of Finance have to be conditioned early in order to put loyalty to things like law and order and regulation above immediate profit. But they serve as like that law enforcement arm. And they have a separate reputation bar. If we look over here, we're at -5 with the Taladi Company. The Ministry of Finance is at -15. So they like us even less, which means if we wanted the specific Taladi designs the Ministry of Finance had, we'd have our work ahead of us. But this is the Ministry of Finance shipyard. You can see those large shipyards up there. And then this here is an extra large construction bay. And when I fly my fighter through it, you can get a sense of what sort of big boys they might be constructing in there that they require that much space. So let's talk reputation before we keep exploring and try and find other factions. And yes, I'm using thrust vectoring. It's just automatic on this ship design. Some of them do it. At negative 15 reputation, you can't dock. The usual ways to increase your reputation with people would be to trade with them. But you can't trade with them because you can't dock at their stations. So you have two options. As you fly around, you can take mission offers from stations, if any are being offered. Right now they're not, but as you fly around, different stations will have mission offers for you. The other thing you can do is, remember how I shot some criminals earlier that spawned around a station? I could hover around these stations and try and gun down some criminals, and that would slowly build up my reputation. And once I'm at negative 9, I'm allowed to dock. But right now, I'm disoriented. I just want to get home. And I'm kind of taken aback by how little all these other species in the network seem to appreciate Terrans. I mean, we do so much work defending them from the Xenon. Do they not understand? And this is the response I get.
Vanguard.
Like,
Falcon.
I'm just asking for help.
Want?
Oh, he might actually help. So, all good. Good on you, Talati. But the Argon and the other factions will not help. So,
Vanguard.
the Talati, who are neutral with everyone, will at least talk to us, which I'm happy with. Alright, let's find our way back to... Let's find our way to the main cluster of systems.
Buffalo.
And I'm trying to filter some of this out because if you're playing for the first time, I want you to be able to do the exploration yourself rather than just following the path I set for you. But what I've made my way to now is the superhighway. This is a transportation link that's been... The species have built between gates to make transit between the two gates faster. It exploits Terran technology that was shared in the past, I believe. I think that's the law. And what it enables you to do is jump on it and be massively accelerated as you cycle between a series of systems that are connected. Not all systems in the game are on the highway, but there is sort of this central ring of systems. So one thing I would recommend, if you're a start like the Terran Cadet that doesn't know space geography very well, is we're just going to jump on the highway and we're going to do a lap, which will allow us to figure out how space sort of clicks together. And you can jump off it at any time. So there we are, jump on. And then if we go to the map view, where are we? We are in Silent Witness, so we're in Argon territory now. And I'm not touching it, I'm just going to sit on the highway unless I pull myself off. Profit Center Alpha, this is more Talati territory. They have a Xenon fighter on their highway. Good stuff. Top tier security guys. Alright, we'll jump through again. Bright Promise, still Talati space. Senior Ministry of Finance equipment dock, bunch of factories. Purple means we are now in Paranid territory. Let's jump off and talk about the Paranid for a moment. So, Paranid, let's comma Paranid.
Boa, Vulture, Sentinel.
No Paranid ships, just Paranid stations. There we are, Gold Realm of the Paranid. Well, there you are, you got to see your first Paranid. The Paranid are three-eyed, 2.2 meter tall aliens. They're deeply theocratic. They are basically big into breeding people for specific purposes. They're hatched, essentially. And I believe there's a Timelines mission where you basically have to go and eliminate a dude because he's not performing effectively and he needs to be replaced with someone who is better at his job. Like, they can be pretty ruthless in that respect. What else to say about the Paranid? Ah, yes. So because they're theocratic, the Paranid are usually ruled by a pontifex, a supreme religious leader. But during the gate shutdown, obviously the different parts of the Paranid Empire were split off from each other, and so many of them hatched and raised their own pontifexes because they needed one and they were cut off from each other. However, when they reconnected, that meant that there was some trouble agreeing over which pontifex was real, and obviously when you have divine infallibility, you can't really agree on who was fallible all along. So there are two main Paranid factions, the God Realm, who we've just encountered, and the Holy Order of the Pontifex that we'll encounter in a bit, and they start the game at war with each other. And the Holy Order is also at war with some of the human allies that the God Realm has brought in to help them out. And we have changed from purple territory to this sort of pink territory, which means we are now in Holy Order territory. This is the opposing Paranid faction. So one thing you can do, if you want another source of early money, is sit at the border between sectors and wait for ships to blow each other up, and then loot whatever is dropped or whatnot. So we're now in Holy Order territory, the other Paranid faction, and they also dislike us -15. So while the two Paranid factions are violently at war with each other and cannot agree on almost anything, they can agree that I, as a Terran, shouldn't be allowed to dock on their stations, and I can rack right off. So yeah, again, great to feel welcome. Alright, I feel we're getting pretty close to home at this point. We've done our full lap. We've now made it to a place called the Void, off Second Contact 2 Flashpoint. It's full of asteroids and some dangerous hazards which can cause damage to ships going through, so hopefully we will be survivable doing this. I'll just skirt my way over the top.
Danger. Hazardous region detected.
Yep, we're taking some hull damage. I should have flown over the top, but I didn't have the patience. But that's okay, we should be pretty much through the worst of it now. And that looks like a promising gate. It's in roughly the right direction. Like I said, in this game, seriously, the Mark 1 eyeball, depending on your graphic settings, I've got mine turned up pretty much as far as they will go. Mark 1 eyeball can outperform space sensors a surprising amount of the time. I've got my katana scouting on the other side. So what I will do is order it to dock and wait at that defense platform. I'll meet up with it there, transition ships. We can fly home, give our report, and then it might be time to do a little bit of introspection and some discussion about what our actual objectives are, because this has been an interesting experience. We've been teleported out of Terran space after infiltrating the Segaris Pioneers. We've taken over this station. We've made contact with a boron. We've discovered all of these species, and we've had a pretty formative experience of, one, there being Xenon around, which was pretty confronting, just seeing Xenon being able to get through without security stopping them immediately. And secondly,
Wheat farm.
it's clear that nobody
Unknown
likes us.
object.
No one's been willing to help us. We've had to scrape by. It's just an interesting experience for someone who's probably been part of the Protectorate's military education system for a while, and before that, presumably lived most of their life inside the Sol system.
Entering
Alright.
system. Getsufune.
Oh, Getsufune. Feels like home. Let's start guidance to the defense platform.
Engage.
Get out of this ship, which I will probably equip it with some satellites and use it as a scout. Eventually we might sell it. But I think for now we'll put it and the Talati piloting into use, but I need to get back into my katana, mate. See you in a sec.
Aldrich.
Alright, so there's my katana. Let's fly this thing in and park on the S-docks. It is, I'll give it this, it's pretty damn maneuverable, which you'd expect for a scout ship, and it's clearly got a level 2 docking computer, which is why I didn't have to do much of the maneuvering myself.
We're pleased to welcome you aboard.
I am pleased to be aboard. Fantastic. Someone who'll actually let me dock. Let's go to the katana.
Katana.
Great. I'll have the seat, thanks. Let's go... Oops. Let's go see if we can report back to Mission Command. And if not, we need to have a little bit of a discussion about what comes next. Alright, I don't have a mission to do this, but I'm assuming that I can rock up and say, hey, I found some things. They clearly knew I was coming because they've turned the screens off again. Hey, boss. Yeah, okay, so I can give a report.
Agent Harrican, we were under the impression that you went AWOL and launched an investigation into your disappearance.
Not in the
I
slightest.
will update your personal dossier before you run into trouble.
Thank you.
Let's take your statement. I am hereby informing you that you are being recorded.
I would be shocked if I wasn't already being recorded.
Raibu Harrican, dispatched to observe Project Genesis. You may begin.
The station moved to
The
another
Segaris
system.
Pioneers are capable of moving stations.
Nope, the
Third
boron
party
was.
involvement. I see. We will investigate this boron. Is there anything else to report? New intel on Project Genesis? Thank you, Agent Huddekin. You stand relieved.
Excellent. Okay, so that way I don't get pulled up on charges for going AWOL. And we will get some more missions from her very, very shortly, as soon as a few things kick over. In particular, that dock, I want that to be finished, because that'll trigger some interesting stuff too. Looks like we've got the energy cells will be arriving, and we just need a seller for the hull parts. I've given the station some extra money, but not particularly necessary, because this is the point where we have finally caught up to what I was, where I had gotten to before I started recording, and I actually have saves I can load into. So, what we're going to do, jump over to that save, and I'll give you some thoughts on what Hurricane thinks about what we've just experienced and what sort of goals we're going to set for the rest of this episode, and indeed for a lot of the playthrough. Alright, so here we are in the real deal about an hour later, sitting in our duchy in a Terran wharf after just picking up some additional satellites. Let's reflect, shall we? So, our cadet has always been a product of the Terran education system. Always knew that the Xenon were a threat, always knew that the gate network wasn't safe, always understood these things. But the experience of the last couple of days has basically been discovering, number one, that the network is far less safe than even he could have known. Literally our first experience was cybernetic Xenon controlling pirates, flying around the core systems of the other races, seeing that the Xenon are not being well controlled, to say nothing of what we know about the Argon Federation. We'll talk about them a little bit later. So the gate network is clearly in a bit of a shambles. We went down to the Segaris Pioneers, and literally the first thing that happened is they asked us to buy restricted technology. So, observation one, yes, it is noble that the Terrans are trying to protect the gate network from threats like the Xenon. It's clearly not working. Or at least it clearly hasn't worked well enough. And observation two is that the other races are not doing enough, the other factions are not doing enough to deal with those threats. Otherwise, why are there cybernetic pirates? Why is there smuggling happening? Why are there Xenon on the highway? Like, it just doesn't make sense. Second observation is that he's now very personally saying the other factions are not particularly well disposed towards the Terrans, and the influence of the Protectorate basically ends with the Segaris Pioneers. That's it. The Talati will tolerate us to the point where we can land, but everyone else is just like, rack off, mate. They're not shooting at us, but there's no friendliness either. So that's observation two. Put those together, and I think our character thinks that at least two things need to happen for now, and then if we further radicalize, the third thing will need to happen later. The first is the Terran economy needs to be supported. So we need to get actively engaged, because clearly the fleets aren't large enough, the Protectorate isn't strong enough to be achieving the goal it set itself. Because otherwise the Xenon would be destroyed and the network would be safe. The second thing is, really, we need to establish influence and connections across the wider gate network. And this is exactly the thought the Secret Service is about to have, and they're going to give us a mission to go investigate the political goings on between the various nations. But we independently are like, okay, we're going to need to make contacts and influence people across the wider network. So how do we do that? How do we get rich? How do we support the Terran economy? How do we build influence? And I want to do this in a way that isn't just focused on breaking the game. I want to focus on doing something our character might think about doing if he was incredibly ambitious and super motivated. So the first thing we're going to do is we need to get some passive income going. And this is whether you're playing a role-playing playthrough or you're just trying to power game. Yes, you can make money by going around doing missions, and you probably should do that. It's a lot of the game. But you probably want money coming in the background. And by doing it, you can also indirectly support the economy of various states. So we'll start with the Terrans. What does the Terran economy need? How can we make money? Well, there's two things I think you want to feed the Terran economy. It's incredibly energy hungry, and it's incredibly raw material hungry. Raw materials in terms of ore, silicon, hydrogen, methane, all these mineable resources that go into these industrial processes. A micro-lattice factory consumes helium, it consumes ore, consumes energy cells. Computronic substrate factories consume enormous amounts. So what we really want is to go into the mining business and the energy business. Let's talk mining first. When you're talking about mining, the pilots of mining ships who can do it for you, you could mine manually, but much better have other people do it for you. their ability to embrace automation goes up as their skill level goes up. But at the start, they're only able to what's called local auto mine. So unless you want to babysit them and say, hey, mine, then go here, like give them those sort of orders, the most set and forget option is if you can find a place where the resources and the factories to use those resources are in the same place. And what we're going to do here is you can see I'm exploring out into the Aut cloud, because already I can see there are some factories and there's resources. How do you do this? Well, first of all, I would recommend finding a location first where the resources and factories that consume them are in the same place. The Aut cloud appears to meet that definition, so we will lay some satellites. And I'll do something like this. You'll lay satellites and you also drop resource probes. I've also dropped resource probes in the asteroid belt. The problem is there are no factories here. I could mine here and then sell into Mars, but with low-level pilots, it's just easier if you can find factories and whatnot in the same place. Otherwise, there are workarounds. We'll talk about them later. These resource probes have found a lot of resources, but no customers. Dropping them in the Aut cloud, we'll find resources and we'll find customers. Great. The second thing you need are mining ships. How do you buy ships? Go to a wharf or a shipyard, right-click, go buy ship. Pick your size class. You can go small miners or medium miners or large miners. I would recommend medium miners at the start of the game because they're cost efficient compared to effective. Large miners are much more expensive. They're also more effective, but they're less efficient in terms of output. The advantage large miners have is you don't need as many of them, you don't need to manage as many of them, and they're much, much more survivable. They're better at defending themselves. So if we pick a Bolo mineral miner, for example, this is just the base hull, then you can pick a loadout. A low preset, for example, gives it relatively cheap equipment. High preset gives it the most expensive equipment it has, and you can see the cost there is 850,000 credits at low, 4.4 million at high, and then I've built my own saved preset, which is the Mark II mining drill, and that costs 886,000. You could then add it to a shopping list and build it, except for the fact that this shipyard is short on energy cells, so it would take a while. It wouldn't be able to build them until more energy arrives. That's the energy shortage that I'm talking about. How do you identify what people are short on? Easy. Have a look at some of the stations, right-click, see who's paying over on what goods. You can instantly see this wharf wants 440,000 energy cells. It's paying 40% over average price. There's probably an energy supply problem here. What I would do, though, early on is recommend, both from a role-playing perspective and also from just a finance perspective, is we don't have to buy Terran for our initial ships. We can go and buy from the other factions. Only the Talati will sell to us at the start of the game, but I can get a Manarina, which is a medium miner, in my baseline 2 preset for 430,000 credits. Like half of what a Terran ship of roughly the same capability, give or take a bit, roughly the same capability will deliver. This is Mark II Talati engines, Mark I thrusters, Mark I shields, a mining drill. We'd probably go to a Mark II mining drill. Some mining turrets, some software, and a couple of service crew. So a really basic fit out, not optimized, but it'll do the job. Once you've figured out what sort of ship you want, you just add it to the shopping list, and then eventually it will get built. If we go to the baseline Manarina gas, these are for mining gas resources. Great. You just add them to the shopping list, buy, and they get built. I've already bought a few because I went salvaging, got a couple of extra credits together, and so there is a whole cluster of Manarinas, 5 of them, plus a few more that I've already sent out, that I'm now going to direct to the Aut cloud. And just for fun, let's right-click live stream view, and this is our formation of Manarinas taking off. So I've dumped about 2 million that I was able to hack together and then put into these miners. Maybe a bit more. And they're going to undock and fly down to the Aut cloud. And then we're going to give them instructions on how to mine for us. Fantastic. We'll get those set up in a moment. Let's just let them arrive. There's more Manarinas here. Order them in. There's a couple of places I want to set up mining operations straight up, because not only is mining profitable, not only does it benefit the economy because the resources are coming in and then become manufactured goods, it also increases your reputation. So what I'm thinking is we also want to get a couple of miners set up in Gaia and Prophecy. I've already got the satellites set down. I'll set the resource beacons down so we can get Segaris Pioneer reputation as well, while also still selling into these things like these computronic substrate fabs, which are going to demand resources, although these are relatively well supplied, so we won't send too many miners down there compared to the number that we'll send into the Oort Cloud. I might get some repeat order ones later in the asteroid belt, but for now we'll get the Oort Cloud set up. Second issue, power, energy. And this is especially the case if we want to do factories of our own a little bit later on. They're going to need energy too. We could put solar panels on the factories, but here's the thing about power generation. All power generation in X4 is solar panels. So every sector has a sunlight resource. Basically, the closer you are to the sun, or the more energy output of the sun, the more generation you're going to get out of your solar cells. In Mars, which would be a great place to build a factory, because there's resources nearby in the asteroid belt, and the main consumers for those resources are in Mars or one step over in Luna, which is where the other shipyards are. There's only 44% solar output. Not good for an energy-hungry faction. But over here in Mercury, there's 714% solar output. So I have built, and I'll show you how to build one of these in a moment, just the starting point, a basic solar power generator station in Mercury. At the moment, all it is 2 energy cell generators, a dock, and a container storage unit. Container storage is the type that stores energy cells, finished products. Solid stores minerals, liquid stores mostly gases, water, stuff like that. This tiny little station, which did not cost much, is currently generating 42,000 energy cells per hour. If I sell each of those at the minimum price of 10 credit per unit, that's 420,000 credits per hour worth of energy cell production. But we're not going to be selling them at minimum price. What I'm going to do, I've done it manually for the moment, is I've bought a Talati freighter, a Terran Vanguard, it's not very good, and what I'm going to do, what I've been doing manually, is telling it to go buy power and then sell it to the wharf. What we're going to do instead is we're going to automate. We're going to do that by going repeat orders. Oh, I need to wait for it to finish its operation first. Wait for it to undock, and then we'll be able to give it repeat orders. Alright, let's see if our mineral ships are starting to arrive. That's great. So now what we want to do, let's remove all orders, because we've scattered the sector pretty well. And we want to drop a pattern of resource probes. They have relatively wide ranges. Resource probes just tell your ships where the densest concentrations of resources are. And if you want to mine effectively, make sure the areas you want to mine are within range of resource probes. So we'll lay a pattern of resource probes. And then we've already got our first solid miner arrive, a mineral miner. So these computronic substrate fabs are in desperate need of ore and silicon. Like, they're in deep deficit, they're paying above average. So what we do is we go local auto mine. We'll start with silicon, confirm, delete the wait order, and that is all I ever need. Ideally, that is all I ever need to do for that ship. It'll know where the resources are better once these resource probes get laid down, but its job now, local auto mine, means it will mine silicon in the sector, and that it will sell silicon to anyone in the sector who is buying it. Fantastic. And as the other miners arrive, we'll set them on other resources. We don't want to fly and wait Neptune. I would like you to fly and wait in the Oort Cloud. And this is going to be an initial source of money, and even more importantly, it's going to start juicing the economy. Not more importantly. Money's pretty good. We're going to need a lot of it because we're an ambitious little Secret Service operative. And the reason I'm comfortable doing this from a story perspective is, in the very near future, I'm just optimizing for the YouTube audience. You're going to be told to set up a cover identity as like a corporate actor anyway. Like, the Terran Protectorate wants you to look like you're trading, you're building stations, you have this separate identity so that you can go and commercially interact with other factions. I'm just doing it a little bit early because I want the money coming in. Very good. So all those mineral ships are coming down, and I'll set them up to mine in a minute. Meanwhile, turn Vanguard. So there's two ways I could do this. I could either, and I'll show both methods, repeat orders is if you wanted to do one exact thing over and over again. So we go right click on our station, we'll buy energy cells from our station, we'll buy full cargo load, and we'll pay maximum price because we're buying from ourselves. So we can pay whatever we want, doesn't really matter. Then we want to sell to the Terran Wharf energy cells. We'll keep nothing, and you know what? We'll sell basically whatever price. I right-clicked in the wrong place. We will sell whatever price. I just want energy cells flowing into this wharf so the Terran Protectorate can keep building ships. Otherwise, ship production is going to slow down. They're going to have trouble replacing losses as quickly as they can, and we don't want that. It's not in our best interest. So that ship will now again and again do that order on repeat. It'll pick up 10,000 energy cells, and it will go and sell them at the wharf. So it will make, at minimum, 100,000 credits thereabouts every time it does that cycle. At the moment, it'll be making considerably more because they're not paying 10 for energy credits, they're paying 22 for energy credits. So we're going to be making like 250,000 per cycle for resources that we are producing over here in our power plant for free. How do you build a station of your own? I'll demonstrate the process. The first thing you need to do is rent some territory. So if you go, these are station plots. These are how large they are. The larger your plot, the more you have to pay. You go create new plot, you click somewhere, you claim it, and then you can build a factory there. I've already done it for our factory. Then you go plan build, and you'll see a little box. I have a tiny, tiny little box for this factory. Then you just bolt on the modules that you want, and then just as with other place, let's just say I want to add one more solar cell over here. I'd confirm the changes. I need substrate energy cells and silicon carbide. It's 250,000 credits to build one solar panel. I think this entire station cost me less than $750,000. I'm not sure. It was a while ago. Accept the estimate, assign a builder. Bob's your uncle. You're going to have a station. Let's assign that. Fantastic. And then we'd be producing 60,000 energy cells per hour because Mercury, just as in Terra Invicta, Mercury is OP when it comes to power generation. It's just the logistics problem of getting the energy from Mercury to wherever you need. Fortunately, Mars is not that far away. If you're asking for my advice on early station building, start small and be careful in make sure you identify a market niche. So for there, it was clearly an energy cell shortage. There's not going to be necessarily in every game. In some games I've seen the Terrans start with a bunch of power generation in Mercury, and energy is cheap throughout the entire Protectorate. It's not, so I'm entering the market. So start small, start with something that you can use or achieve rather using the blueprints you start with, because paying for blueprints, as we'll see in a bit, is very, very expensive, and I'll show you some other ways to get them. Blueprints are what allow you to build certain station components. And later on, they're also the things that allow you to produce ships, if you ever get your own shipyard, which is way, way, way down the track. Also, don't build by a massive location, like a massive plot straight out. Certainly don't build without a plot, because the faction will consider you a lawbreaker, and that will hurt. The only way to get free real estate is to go into a neutral sector, in which case real estate is free, and you can build a 20 by 20 mega plot for 0. Which is fantastic. I also pay a premium to put the station close to the gate. If you look at plots, if I go create new plot, this thing will cost 64,000 if I buy it over here, and 384,000 if I put it right near the gate. Pay the premium. Pay it, because it's logistics. You won't notice the cost later on. Time is money. Don't consider what good you're talking about, but for a high volume, high transit good like this that's going to be going all the time, absolutely do it. The other way to automate that sort of trading is to instead assign a ship to a facility. So for example, the headquarters now, I could bolt production modules to it, or it might have resource demands. All I would want to do is if I want those goods to be sold without me relying on NPC ships to come by, is I have a transport ship here, trade for commander, you can have different groups, assign it as a group, and then that ship's just going to take orders from their headquarters, and whenever it needs something, it's going to send this ship out to buy it.
Jump gate.
Okay, so there's a little bit of story stuff that happened off screen, which meant that Bozo, when we originally met Bozo was not on the station. He was merely deeply interested in it. Now he's safely on the station, so I thought we'd go meet Bozo face to face and talk a little bit about research before we discuss the immediate priorities I have, now that I've got some passive income set up and coming in. Anyway, let's go meet Bozo, and then we'll talk about reputation. We'll go to the science laboratory. There's Bozo. He is a boron, and he is a happy chappy in his tank. A nice little feature of this room, by the way, is over here there's a safe deposit storage, so if you are ever carrying any illegal goods and don't want them to be discovered when you're being scanned, you just dump them in here. So if I, for example, had some AGI technology, I just drag it over to the storage, confirm, and it's safe here until you need it for whatever reason. Hey, Bozo.
Hello there.
Oh, he wants to give me a mission with a troubling signal. We'll talk to him about it, but I'm mostly here to show you the research menu.
Welcome, my dear assistant. I am so grateful you were able to join me. I must inform you of some
Bozo
very
refers
strange
to you as his
phenomena.
assistant, and you sort of
Asteroid at the heart of this
control
HQ
this station
does
together.
not seem to be an ordinary space rock.
What do you mean it's not an ordinary space rock? I thought rocks teleported all the time.
To be brief, it is emanating. I shall have to study further, but there are distinct signals permeating through the structure. Indeed, as far as I can tell, the asteroid is some sort of mineral-based brain. A brain of considerable power, and it seems to be reaching out.
So it's a giant
trying to
processing
connect
core.
with something. That is an excellent question, Assistant. The signals seem to be reaching out in quite random directions. However, there is something else. Beyond the Animus Zora, something seems to be signaling back. I need you to investigate. By all accounts, there should not be anything notable in that location.
I think I know what this is.
Jolly good. However, there is more. Your abandoned vessel retrieval has certainly had an impact on the asteroid. By parsing the telemetry through the asteroid brain, we were able to generate new research opportunities.
This is
Please
related
keep
to
me
the
alert for
Timelines
any more such
DLC, I believe.
artifacts that could have a connection with the asteroid.
So, because we recovered a historical vessel, it's now been added to our research menu. And that's right, I did say research menu. So, Bozo here is a very smart chappy, and this base that we have taken over is fully outfitted for a whole range of research purposes with some nifty technology that you probably won't find anywhere else in the Gate network. He needs us, by the way, because he's a dude in a tank. So in terms of actually going out and doing things, he's very reliant on you. So it's me and Bozo, and as far as the Secret Service is concerned, keep an eye on him and see what develops, basically. Up here, you'll have, once you've got Bozo in his tank, you can open the research menu. There's a couple of trains of research, and they all work in basically the same way. Down the bottom, there's ship researchers. So we have our Audachi. This is from the Timelines DLC. Then you have mods. So mods are a way to add attachments essentially to your ship. Shields, engines, weapons, hull. It's actually, there's a lot of mod options. And you use a lot of these materials you're looting in order to add modifications to your ship. But you need to research the different levels of them. Chassis mods, engine mods, shield mods, weapon mods, and you research up the levels. If we wanted engine mods, for example, we would need to do a job for Bozo, and then it would take him 10 minutes. And then later on, like most researchers, you need to gather certain resources, and he uses those for his projects. Up here you have hacking research. So hacking research is the cheaper way to get access to some facility blueprints. Instead of going and by spending maybe tens of millions on some modules, you know, hundreds of thousands for the cheap ones, low millions for the medium ones, 10+ million for the expensive modules, you can instead research a technology that allows you to go over in your spacesuit, chuck an EMP bomb on the segment in question, and then steal the blueprint, essentially. And I will demonstrate that, but it doesn't work until you've done the relevant research. So if you want to hack dock modules, production modules, storage modules, you need the research first. And as you can see, you need to gather certain resources for that to be possible. The top tier level of research is teleportation. Only possible, again, because you're in control of this station. This station can add a teleport capability to you, the player, and what that means is you can teleport between various assets you control.
It appears some Terran technology was being used to research teleportation.
And yes, it is
over
Terran
long
technology.
distances.
Level 1, you can teleport to anything you own within the same system. With range 1, anything within 3 systems. At range 2, anything within 5 systems. And at range 3, anywhere in the gate network. If you own a ship there, you can right-click and teleport to it. And that allows you to be really mobile with you, the player, so you can directly arrive, take control, intervene. You can be hyper-mobile by moving up these trains. Teleportation is really useful. That said, I think our first ambition is going to be production modules. And I'll set this, but it's going to take a bit till we get there, because we'll need to build a storage on our station to store these goods, so a container storage, so we can buy these goods in. We then need to buy these goods. But what that will allow us to do is go and get production modules without having to spend a huge amount of money on them. Because what I want to do, in terms of my immediate economic ambitions, before we start talking about the rest of the network economically, need to start close to home. And I think it would only be right for us to build a forge complex in Mars. We can ship the energy from Mercury to a factory in Mars that can then produce computronic substrate, silicon carbide, and microlattice, the 3 Terran goods, and sell them directly into the orbital supply base, the wharf, and then eventually the lunar shipyard. That way, we are directly responsible for supplying the Terran shipbuilding industry with energy and also with all of its other resource inputs. Basically, we're going to give the Terrans what they need to produce lots of ships, and we're going to get really wealthy doing it, while also indirectly boosting up the Terran Navy. But to do that, I need to know how to build those production modules, which is where Bozo's research will come in handy. Just teleport it back to my ship, because the other goals are going to be those missions that we said we were going to do.
Odachi.
Because we are in the Secret Service after all. We can't completely ignore our job. But we do need to go fix some reputation issues. Because if we're going to be moving around, spying, infiltrating, etc., we want to be able to actually move around. We want to be able to dock, trade, interact. Like, the more trust you have locally, the easier these things are going to be, right? And also, it's just going to be more useful in general. So, we need to boost up our reputation, at the very least with factions, so that we can dock and trade at their stations. So, I'm going to start with the Argon, because they're closest to Terran space. This looks like a mission. Escort mining ship. Perfect mission. So,
I knew I could count on you.
they want us to escort a mining ship, which we will do, because you get plenty of reputation for doing these. I'm happy to show up a reputation mission. So, as far as we, as someone who's come from the Terran School of Thought, are concerned, the Argon are cowboys when it comes to AI research. They try to suppress Earth's existence, and really, it's a tragedy that humanity is broken up in this way, really. I mean, surely it would be better if we were all united under a single faction. But that's a thought for later in the playthrough. Let's go escort some mining ships and convince the Argon that we are fantastic and that they should let us onto all their stations. Another reason to get reputation up early is because we want to eventually have access to being able to buy everyone's ships. We want to be able to buy their blueprints, because we want to operate using more than just the base Terran technology. So what we now have to do for this mission, it's basic escort mission. There'll be a mining ship here, there it is. And we have to protect it from attacks, usually by Kark. So that insectoid race, they really get attracted towards mining activities, and they have access to jump drives, meaning that they can teleport into a location, except for most Terran sectors. Most Terran sectors in the lore are protected from jump drives. In this game, I think the only area that the Kark can get to is the asteroid belt. Everywhere else is protected from those jump drives under normal circumstances at the very least. But they will jump in and they will attack miners, and the more mining activity is taking place, the more likely they are to attack. There are lore reasons for that, but they can be really, really annoying. And their weapons are really optimized against light ships and fighters. They use a lot of beams, so instant hit, low damage weapons.
Forager.
There they are. Can't jumping in. Let's test out these guns on a live target for the first time. If we can get a hit. Yeah, there we are.
Protector.
Nice. Oh, look, the guns may be a lower velocity, but they hit hard, and this thing is maneuverable compared to the katana.
Wings guard.
Fantastic.
Drill.
Looks like
Wings
some of these
guard.
ships are equipped with flak cannons.
Forager.
So we'll keep these guys off the miner, and if we pull this off, not only do we get 100,000, which is great, but I'm also bringing in, I think we've made more than $1 million this episode so far, just from the passive mining and energy business that's going on in the background. So the money is not the main point here, the reputation here is. And why might I want to buy ships from the Commonwealth races? Well, obviously they are cheaper in a lot of cases for what they are, because of the way the production cycle works, but also when you buy from a faction, you're using up the resources at their shipyard. So if I build ships at a Terran shipyard, I'm using components and resources that can't then be used to manufacture it for the AI. So if I'm buying ships from a faction, I'm actually possibly, if they're in a resource shortage situation, going to make their fleet comparatively weaker. If I want the Terran fleet to be in the best possible shape, I don't want to be mass buying ships from the Terran shipyards, unless I'm confident that I'm supplying them all the resources they could possibly need. The Hive Guard are the bigger boys, as you can see. Wow, those guns hit hard. Turrets are also active, which is nice. Now the great thing about these missions is I can get reputation not just for completing it, but also for destroying it, destroying targets when they're close, if we're close enough to a station, as we are right now. You also just get reputation for destroying enemies close to stations, just like with those criminals. Only now I'm gunning down a whole bunch of Kark. So even though the mission hasn't finished, we're already at +1 reputation. From me slicing through these Xenos with the brilliant firepower. I'm really liking the Adachi. It's not as fast as the Katana, and you have to adjust for the fact the projectiles are slower, but the guns hit hard, and most importantly, the thing maneuvers more like a fighter. And I know it's not the best upgrades we can slap on it. So I'm really happy with the Adachi so far as an early game ship. If you have the Timelines DLC, this might be a decent option if you start in that part of the galaxy and you want to look for a salvage ship that might make a great starter, because I can see you doing a lot of early game combat missions pretty successfully in this thing. Because those electromagnetic guns hurt, see? We're getting one-shot kills on some of these things. And the accuracy is not bad. If they turn at distance, we can have a problem, but we also have the boost to really get up and go if we need to get close. And the turrets are performing perfectly well too, so I have very few complaints with the Adachi. The roll is very nice compared to the Katana. And I love the Katana. Anyway, I imagine that's probably where we're flying to, so this mission should be complete soon, and then we can head back to Terran space for some next steps. Okay, I think we've just about safely delivered that ship. It's docking, which should be the end of our job. I mean, they paid me 100,000, which is pretty steep for security, but there we go. Argon Federation 11. You will now be treated as a friend at stations belonging to the Argon Federation. We get the credits. Very nice, very nice, very nice. And indeed, what happens now is that reputation is actually so high that if I go to my messages, I should see, here we are, a promotion ceremony. So there are two main levels in terms of reputation on the positive side for every faction. +10 and +20. If we go to faction info here, you'll see Argon Federation at +10. Once we go and get our title, Friend of the Federation, we will be able to get access to military ship equipment licenses for free, military ship licenses, so we'll be able to buy not just civilian ships but also things like fighters. At 20, you can buy things like capital ship equipment. So, and there's other bonuses besides. So working your way up these ranks is handy. For the Terrans, we want to get to 20, because 20 gives us access to Luna and Earth, and that's just something I think our character would want. On the way back, I've encountered some Xenon in Antigone territory, I believe we're currently in. I could leave them be, but I'm still a Terran, even if I'm undercover. So it's not like I'm going to fly past some Xenon when they're there to splat. Not sure anyone will appreciate that or not. Doesn't matter. Xenon are there. I make sure there are no more Xenon there.
Entering system. The void. Okinawa.
Alright, we are safely back in Terran territory where I need to start scanning for pirates, but I think we can safely leave that for next episode. Not that I don't want to find them, it's just we've already accomplished a lot. In this episode, we discovered the headquarters. We established it. I introduced the research system, although we'll do our first research next episode as I work our way through that. I rescued Bozo off screen, but we'll learn more about him in the near future. We established passive income and started boosting the Terran economy in two very important ways. I now have a fleet of miners operating in the Orc Cloud, a single miner operating in Segaris, and I built up an energy station with its own trade ships, which is both selling into the Terran economy and directly transporting stuff into the shipbuilding sector, which should hopefully with time bring down and slowly bring down the premium being paid for energy cells, which is one measure of how much of a shortage there is. So we're doing what we can. What I want to work to, and we also fixed reputation with the Argon, and we'll need to do that with all of the other factions, and we haven't even discovered all the factions. We haven't met the Split, any faction of the Split. Those guys are interesting, and we haven't met the Boron either. But we have established good relations with the Argon for now, and we're about to work down the Terran storyline to find out more about these pirates who stole our wingman. What I want to do economically next episode is look into what it will take to get our first major production station going. That means getting the research for production module hacks. It means then getting access to the relevant blueprints, and then establishing a small factory in Mars in order to start supplying goods into the Terran economy. Also probably expanding our power plant, which is very small at the moment. It will need, among other things, a dock for larger ships, so it'll need that. It'll need more storage, and it will need a lot more generators. So we have economic goals that we need to fulfill. It's also been a time of development for our characters' ambitions, and you can bet that once we do some of these political interactions through the Hatikva test and meet Dal, those ambitions will only grow. Anyway, hope you're enjoying. Thank you so much for the reception to the series so far. Next episode, hope you're looking forward to hunting some pirates and maybe getting a larger production structure started while we also do our first research. I'll show you some blueprint hacking, but until then, thank you very much. I'll see you soon.